So the next item on the agenda? We're finished, right?
Yep, unless you wanted to reallocate any of that 10-131 or leave it all for the fall grants.
I think maybe we should leave all of it. We're gonna probably have people come to us during the next 6 months before we do the fall grants. Whenever we do the fall grants, asking for money. So it's nice to know we have a little bit of money. Yes.
I have to go call Christine Walker because she thought she was on at 11 if we're moving on to the next item.
That would really be helpful.
Okay.
So we're ahead of schedule on this committee.
Yes.
So don't say
Sorry, just hold on.
I'm just wondering, since you have a moment, if I could speak just for one moment?
Sure. A dozen items ready to go on the agenda.
I was just wondering if I could have permission to speak.
Sure.
First, I just want to say thank you very much. I know it's a very tough job that you've just gone through, and as many of you know, and certainly Councillor Morris, I mean, I've been sitting through these probably about 10 years now, because before the Guidance Council, I've always been involved in some community organization, and it's tough, and I really encourage you to please revamp this process, because it is so painful for everybody, and I certainly understand the challenges that you're facing as well. As an organization, we do our best to respond based on the criteria given, and you know, and we do need your guidance in terms of where you'd like us to put our efforts. So, for instance, in the case of the Arts Council, you're cutting our grant back. So, is that a message from you to also consider about cutting back programs like programming of arts? So, we need to have that information from you, and we're happy to work accordingly, because we are working on behalf of the community, as are you. So we need your direction, and we're fine. We can cut back. We can definitely cancel programs if that's the will of this community and this local government. But we are listening to you, and we'd love to hear more about what direction you're planning on going into, so we can also make alterations accordingly. So thank you again. But as I say, I please urge you to reconsider this whole process.
Well, we're going to do that, Jack. We're going to. You heard council this morning, so that's going to be done for sure. But the fact that we've taken $3,000 over what you less than what you've asked for, it's not going to make that big difference to you as compared to taking $3,000 away from a $10,000.
I appreciate that, absolutely, but I do, it brings up questions. So for instance, we work with your community rep in action at a meeting on Friday with Christine Walker, and we're looking at going to a paperless brochure. And we've been talking about putting a financial amount of money that we will give to ensure that goal is met. So now I'm looking at my budget, and I now have $3,000 less. I had budgeted about $2,000 for that program to go into, to help community recreation as a whole. And so now I have to rethink that, or I have to rethink about our programming. Should we actually be as ambitious in the past and organize as many courses, because there's a cost to us because we pay the facilitators. We register through Community Rec. So Community Rec right now is registering, and they're going to be charging, I understand, $5 per registration for registering. So can we that cost of $5?
Well, I think it's unfair for one organization.
No,
and I
promoting and asking when the others have left, and they are not here to say how they're being affected.
Well, I think my comments were that everybody's being affected. So, and I think you understand it. Thank you.
I don't want to get out of this meeting without having a commitment or probably a timeline attached to how to go from here in regard to future change.
That was the other thing I wanted to say.
Okay.
That was one of the recommendations from the Finance Review Task Force, that the whole community grants and the permissive tax exemptions, the policies and everything be looked at and reviewed. And I've made a note of Councillor Dunce's interest in the area, and I think Councillor Rhodes also expressed an interest. And Darren and I both had interest, comments with Joyce, and it's on the work list
So
of
that
the
means the
task
whole,
force
the
as a
whole council's
subcommittee.
gonna be on it.
As a subcommittee, and if you wanted to be on it too, Andrew.
You open your mouth.
So at this point, I've got a list of one member
Just be a
from
big
the,
lovin'.
Joyce Canon, Wolfgang, and Tim, and probably another member that's on the finance task force that's on the community foundation. As the group to be the subcommittee of the finance task force to look at it.
You know, I think we should look into the way juries are set up
Yeah.
for Canada Council. For example,
Yeah, I think
That's
that's an
only-
excellent.
that's why
There are
we
lots
call it
of,
what's in
there are
there.
lots of models. Canada Council is the most obvious one.
yeah,
But, you know, there are.
and they set up juries for everything. They set up juries for visual, for dance, for
Well,
music.
and look at the way like West Van has a grant, they set a plot, they have the communities grants. North Van does the same thing, and that committee,
Mhm.
which is made up of entirely citizens, screens them all, everything else. The policy is approved by the council and the amount of money, and then it goes. So there's part of the job will be looking at whether.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
In my experience isn't at a municipal level, it's more at a provincial level, but the grant giving agencies that I've been involved in, both on the receiving and the giving side, they have been arm's length organizations that are essentially autonomous. They're made up of people that are experts in the field, much like, I guess, the foundation that you're involved in. And they actually make the decisions, and it's right out of the hands of the politicians.
So it should be.
Yeah.
It always
Yeah,
comes
I agree.
back to ratification, I think, to the councils because it's spending money.
Yeah, but there's the three things, an arm's length committee following along terms of reference set by council, and then the amount of money that's agreed to by council, and then the final result of how the money is split up comes back to council. Three stages.
Karen, when's the next round of applications?
September 30th, I think, is it?
So in
Very
terms
soon.
of council time, it's not that far away because we've got the summer break, right?
It
Yeah,
says
I
on the
think
form.
it's not something that would take a lot of time to do.
No, the following.
No, but the policy, but there's lots of recommendations.
August
Examples to
31st.
follow up there.
Well, I think we should, on that same, that we should set a deadline when this has to be completed by, so that the next round of
Yeah.
applications is informed.
The idea was all of this stuff by August, so it would be very intense.
We've got a few minutes. I'm just wondering if I know Mr. Henley would like to say a couple of words. Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. You what? Just hold on a sec, Christian. I'm sorry, I should. I didn't see it. Do you want to come up and?
Ian,
Did you want to finish what you were, it's up to you guys.
Ian, you're not going to be long.
No.
Please.
Matter of fact, I haven't.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Speak.
I was almost going to leave without saying anything, but I did. I'm not here as a skeptic. I mean, there are very few of us around, obviously, but I am fascinated with what went on today. You know, too bad more people don't see what goes on in the process, and the process is what makes the whole effort worthwhile, and the civilized way that you people conducted yourselves today and the respect that you showed for each other is something that people should see more of on this island. My comment and criticism is that the people who are applying for grants should be aware of where the money comes from. And I sort of touched on that in this letter I wrote. And people should understand that perhaps their members could go about supporting those activities, those things that happen or could happen on Bowen Island that would result in more financial support in the way of revenues to this Bowen Island municipality. I suspect that many in the supplicants here today opposed process that would create funds that would make this unnecessary, to this heart-rending action would be unnecessary, and grants would be available to do not just this, but big things like the civic center. That's all I have to say, and thank you so much for providing a very interesting and entertaining few minutes for me.
Darren just taking it.
Yeah, I know, it's just something I did.
It wasn't you.
Thank you, and I apologize for, I was on a little bit later, so we were a little bit busy down in our office, so I came up when Casey called. So what you have before you is the most recent rendition of the terms of reference for the new Community Center Implementation Committee. And I would like to formally just thank Councillor Jennings and Councillor Rhodes for being a part of helping to create this. And so what we've done is put in front of you a new terms of reference with 3 different phases that have been labeled funding capacity, site and design development, and implementation. And would it be helpful to walk through this with council? With that?
Well, we've all had a chance to.
Okay, well, what maybe we could do is just highlight some of the different areas, and if there's questions that go along. The ideal behind this is that we'd like to be able to get this out to the community as soon as possible in order to start advertising for community members. Their time has now been shortened substantially in terms of getting people on the committee, and we would love to be able to have our first meeting before summer hits. So it would be in a 2-week time frame in terms of putting this up to community members. So the purpose is really to be the advisory committee, select committee to council, and looking at an intention that the construction begins in September of 2013. So we put some goals there, of being able to accomplish. We would be looking at analyzing and incorporating the work of the previous community-specific facilities working group through the feasibility study and their final report, as well as the Bowen Community Center Action Committee and their final report recommendations. What's included in here, as was with the other terms of reference, was being able to liaise with the Finance Review Task Force and having a close working relationship with them in terms of being able to build a budget and also a business case for the project. And that the committee would basically look at also, during their term, looking at the implementation of creating a Bowen Island Community Center Society, which would oversee the operation and management. And as council has seen in the past, we have a draft memorandum of understanding. There's been some concerns around what's been included in there, so that committee would work towards solidifying that and actually going and starting up the society. So in terms of phase 1, and Councillor Jennings and Rose can jump in at any point in time to talk to some of these, is around the funding capacity and identifying what our funding is and what we have available at the point in time. Looking to establish the amount to borrow for the municipal component, which is the loan authorization of transferring from rent to actually owning. Revising the governance memorandum of understanding, as I mentioned. Also looking at some commercial revenue opportunities, which was also included in the past recommendations. The completion of a budget and operations funding strategy. Establishing the fundraising campaign cabinet for the fundraising strategy, and that would be a very important time during phase 1 as well to go after looking at what our fundraising capabilities are. And throughout all of this, but we've included it in each phase, is undertaking community engagement throughout the entire process. Is there questions around phase 1? Does anyone have?
Phase 2 is site and design development, which would commence the site study of the site itself, looking at any, based on the budgetary conclusions from the first phase. We would begin the concept design, incorporating the programming discoveries of both, again, the Civic Facilities Working Group and Bowen Community Center Action Committee work. The concept design is to include options that can be phased in as funding becomes available. The site would be prepared. That includes roads, sewer, water, hydro. Preparing the site costs. So this is really getting the site completely ready for construction, which is phase 3. And taking implementation and starting the construction drawings and actually starting the construction part. As I mentioned in all of this, it's really important that we are undertaking community engagement throughout the entire process. In terms of the makeup, it is the same as what was presented in the past. It's been 3 members of the current Bowen Community Center Action Committee, up to 3 members, up to 6 members of the community at large, and 2 council members appointed by council. And all of those would be all voting members. We have in here that we were looking for people who are interested or who have experience in communications and marketing, facility management, building design and planning, construction, fundraising, and financial management. We're recommending that I would be the staff liaison and that other staff members from planning, finance, and public works would also be included throughout the process. It's important that this is a large undertaking by the municipalities, that all departments would be involved, and that there would be a maximum of 2 years for serving on the committee. And I think that's it. In terms of the budget right now, council approved in the past $16,500 for the first phase. And that was based on a different plan, but we are suggesting that we keep it at that right now. And as planning moves forward, we'll be coming back to council requesting more as we go along.